Every cosplayer has their dream cosplay. Something insane, something that will take months to research and then to build, not to mention a whole lot of money that they're going to be throwing at this project. In short, it's a cosplay that will test them in ways that they didn't know they needed to be tested. Anne of Cleves from the musical 6 has been that cosplay for me for a couple of years now. As a character, I adore her. She is hilarious. And to be honest, I've seen her played in all manners of fashion. I've seen her being played sassy. I've seen her being played as a complete dag. And you know what? I've loved every single version. But the costume, well, when I look at a cosplay and I look at the wig, which is an updo, and think, I can do that, that's going to be the easiest part of the cosplay, you know I'm in trouble. I hate wigs. From the thigh-high boots with lots of detail all over them to the tearaway of the main costume, which is made up of lycra, fur and vinyl, 3 things that should never be sewn together, to the accessories that are very, very unique and will need to be 3D modeled and printed. Anne of Cleves is much more complicated than what she appears to be at first glance. But today's video is a part that I am tackling which is very difficult for a whole other set of reasons. The bodysuit. If there's one thing that I really dislike, it is close-fitting outfits. Things that show off every lump, bump and curve of my body. I am not a skinny person. When it comes to cosplay, I stick to mostly girly girl type cosplays that tend to come in at the waist and then flare out. So it hides, or rather distracts, from all the parts of my body that I really dislike. Mostly my stomach. I hate my stomach. The word sexy is not in my vocabulary to describe myself. And the idea of making and then wearing this cosplay, this bodysuit of this cosplay, is way outside of my comfort zone. So yeah, I guess let's make this. Here we go. The very start of the project of creating Anne of Cleves from 6. The first mock-up of the bodysuit. Here is mock-up number 1. And, you know, this is after I spent all this morning kind of like fitting it better to my body than what the straight pattern was. And, you know, it's at a stage now where I'm happy enough with it to start with the next process of getting Terry to draw all the lines on me so that I can cut it all to pieces and then start, you know, mock-up number 2. Now, let's address the obvious. I'm not a tiny person. I have curves. Especially here, there's a big curve here, and this is a lot. This is definitely a lot. I don't generally wear swimsuits. I've not worn a leotard since I was like 12, and this is a lot to make this and then wear it and then also to film it. So yeah, I'm definitely pushing past some boundaries for myself. Now, I do also want to say that I am wearing it inside out so that I know where the seams are. Yeah, it is what it is. Like, you know, this is a body. There is clothes on a body. That is how I'm just trying to see this, rather than looking at this and looking at all my insecurities. But yes, I'm going to call Terry in. We're going to draw all over me and then I'm going to cut it all up and I'm going to start putting it together so that I can create the second mock-up. So let's do that now. Terry has gone ahead and drawn all over me at the front and the back. So now it's a case of taking this all apart, cutting it up the front and the back, down the center, and basically adding seam allowance and cutting it out of the next lot of fabric. So I'm having a little bit of a brainwave here because having seams in this costume is a pain because there's lots of different pieces to this. Not the most amount of pieces that I've ever had in one cosplay, but
what I'm thinking is, what if I had a base suit that was mostly like flesh colored and then layered the pieces on top of it? Because for me, I really want to make this as sturdy as possible and as much coverage as possible. So I'm considering actually using a skin colored lycra with a mesh on top, so a power mesh on top to kind of look like skin, and essentially have that all where skin would be showing, because like the sleeves and whatnot have different skin parts. But I was just thinking, all of this could potentially be like beige, and then I could layer the pieces on top of it, because and that would reduce seams and it would reduce bulk. And why that's important is because all of like the joining pieces are going to be covered by stud trim, and so you don't see that. And of course lycra doesn't fray, so if I can stitch it down with like a zigzag stitch over the top, like the beige color, that might be an easy way of doing this to get really clean lines and to get the most kind of you know, aerodynamic bodysuit. Oh, that's interesting. Okay. Alright, let's play with this. Let's play with this. A quick check-in. So here is mock-up number 2 in its current form. I'm about a little over halfway. The sleeves have been put together, but I'm just doing the bodysuits now, and I decided to do it out of Anne of Cleves colours, just so that I can kind of visualise it a bit better. And yeah, I'm just going around and sewing every piece onto the base layer, which at the moment is a white lycra that I had in my stash. And I'm then going to sew it all together, try it on and see what it looks like, and if I'm happy with it, I will proceed. But let me show you why I think that this is going to be the best way to go ahead and do this. So across all of these seam lines where I've zigzag stitched it down, there is 2 layers of ribbons, and then it has some studs as well. And you see, once I lay that over the top, you're not going to be able to see the stitch lines, and it will look very clean and very flat. There's no bulk to this. So although it looks very rough like this, I think overall it's going to be a much smoother finish. Here is mock-up number 2 completed. And I love this so much more than mock-up number 1. I mean, it's in the Cleve colours, so I just wanted to do that so I could really see what it was going to look like, so I could give myself this better idea of what I will look like in the final costume, because honestly, this is so far outside of my comfort zone. But I really like it. Like, I feel kind of sexy in it. Like, I know I'm not everyone's cup of tea, but that's okay. I'll be champagne, darling. There's one little issue with it, and that is the back. I have got a little bit of a kind of duckbill happening in the back, but I think I know how to fix that. I've just messaged my friend Lady Rebecca Fashions and just said, hey, how do I deal with this? Just to make sure that what I'm thinking will work, because it doesn't really happen too much for me in like regular costumes, but I think because this is lycra and because it is right where the zip is, it's just causing some tension, and I would rather this be as smooth as possible because it will have all the studs over the top of it. Plus, the fabrics that I'm actually going to be working with, unfortunately, are not nylon lycra as all of these. This was the easy version. No, the fabrics that I have, I'm going to show you, they're not easy to work with. But it's fine. It's absolutely fine. I think that the idea of having the base and then layering everything on top of it is going to be the way to go for me. I feel very much like sucked in, and like just I feel very secure And I really like that. That was something that I was really concerned about. But yeah, I just feel very smooth. And yeah, I think that this is going to work. It's a little bit later and I have gone ahead and I've taken a wedge out of the middle red piece here, and it's about 5 centimeters each side. So it's a decent whack, and what that's done is it's just kind of made the back very smooth in the middle there. The other thing that I've done is I've actually taken an extra 3 centimeters by sewing an extra 1.5 centimeters in on the crotch line just to kind of pull the back down, and now I'm not getting the gappage that I was getting around my tush, and it's just fitting really nicely. I'm really happy with this, considering I've never made a leotard before, other than obviously the mock-up yesterday and now this. And just, you know, playing around and figuring out the best way that I'm going to be making this has really, really been good. And I think using Anne of Cleves colours has just kind of helped me figure out, okay, this is roughly what it's going to look like. And I don't hate it on my body. And I honestly, oh my goodness me, like yesterday when I was working with the orange one, I hated every single moment of that. I looked terrible. And it's the same body. It's still, you know, it's the same body here, but I think that seeing the design with the colours and seeing the black band, which is obviously going to be the black fishnet material, it just kind of is much more flattering than like an all-in-one colour. Yeah, I feel good. You know, I feel very good. And I think having the extra layer of lycra all over just kind of helps suck everything in and smooth things over. And I'm just, yeah, I'm feeling really positive about this. Like, yes, I'm plus size. I am aware of that. You know, plus size, especially when it comes to cosplay. But like, I feel good in this. So the next thing I need to do is I need to start making the real thing. And to do that, I actually need to go and get some lycra in a beige colour, which is going to be my base that I'm going to build everything on top of. I've still got to make some notes on this one as well. Like, I need to make notes to extend the black, like the fishnet on the arms a little bit longer so I can turn them up and have that as a hem on the inside. Very similar to how I've done it here. But I think that I could probably get it a little bit longer and give myself a little bit more to play with. And the same will go for the red down the bottom. Rather than doing any kind of extra kind of binding, I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to extend the red and then fold it up, because then I want to try to reduce bulk as much as possible, because, you know, this costume really doesn't leave much to the imagination. Let's start the main one, and I will show you the fabric that I've got for that, for the outer layer, because it's going to be problematic. I know this already, but you know what? It's fine. We're gonna go along with it. It is time to start dismantling my second mock-up so that I can start cutting out all the real fabric. But before I do that, I want to show you currently all the stuff that I've got for this project, or at least this part of the project, because I've got a fair bit of it. So over here I have picked up the lycra for the base of the bodysuit. It's a wonderful kind of spandex slash lycra sort of situation. They're probably the same thing, but it's very, very, like, not thick, but strong lycra. So I'm very excited to use that one. I have it in the beige color, so, you know, skin tone, but it is quite a fair bit darker than myself. So that is why I'm going to also be layering it with the mesh, which I was planning on doing anyway because this mimics skin. So those together, I've just held it up against myself. I think it's going to be pretty close to my skin tone, especially with makeup, according to Terry. So happy days. Then for the red, I have this gorgeous piece of fabric that is very expensive. It's only 1/2 meter, and I remember that this 1/2 meter of fabric off AliExpress, out of all places, because it was the only place that I could find it, it was over $50 Australian for this like half half a meter, crazy. But it has all of these rhinestones which sparkle so beautifully, which just mimics what the bodysuit looks like on stage. So I've got that, and then I also picked up today a new fishnet that goes around the middle and down the arms. I did have a different fishnet that was pretty much exactly the same in terms of the way that it looked. However, this is a higher quality and it is a 4-way stretch. It's mostly a 2-way stretch, but the other way does have stretch as well. So it's going to be a lot easier to work with these types of fabrics. Now, there is one more piece of fabric that I'm waiting on it arriving, which is a red net to go over this, but it is something that is optional because I have seen some bodysuits just with this, and I've also seen some bodysuits with netting, and some bodysuits with like sparkle with a net, and then some bodysuits that are plain red with like a net over the top and then sparkles on the net. There are so many different versions of this bodysuit. So I'm getting the net just so that I can play around with it and see if it looks good on top of this. If it just doesn't read correctly, then I won't use it. But I'm gonna wait till I get that, so because it should be here within about a week or two. So fingers crossed. Over here, I have trim galore. So I have got all of the kind of circles and also the clasps that then go onto the chains. So I've got a whole lot of chain. Most of these chains will be used on the bodysuit, but Anne of Cleves does also have a few chains on her main costume. So this should be enough for that as well. But I also have many meters of these half stud trim, and I've had this in my stash for a while. I bought out the place where I bought this. I bought them out of all of this trim in all the different sizes that they had for this project, and I don't think it's enough. I'm pretty, like, I am 98% certain that this is not enough to do all of Anne of Cleves. She has a ridiculous amount of studs on both her costumes. So I'm going to be using this mostly for the bodysuit, and what I have left over I will then be using in the main costume. But I think I'm going to have to purchase some regular studs as well and get those shipped relatively soon, because yeah, I need to make sure that they at least look similar enough. But the only other thing that I'm still waiting on that has to do with this bodysuit is some Crossgrove ribbon. So with the Crossgrove ribbon, I ordered that this morning. It should be here within about 2 weeks, maybe 2.5 weeks. Fingers crossed sooner rather than later. And I had to order 2 different sizes of both red and black, because what it is on the bodysuit, the studs are actually on the black, but then the black ribbon is on a slightly wider red ribbon. This is the level of detail that I have looked at this cosplay. But on her main costume, I will just say that it is all just straight black ribbon. So yeah, I've ordered 100 yards of 4 different sorts of Crossgrove ribbon, and I'm hoping that that's going to be enough to do all of the outfits. I think it will be. 100 yards is a lot of yardage, and I definitely don't need that much, but I needed the variety of it all. So fun times. But for now, I have to unpick this mock-up and probably pack all of this away until I actually need it. So I have just started cutting out the fabric for the bodysuit, and I managed to get the base layer completely cut out of the new beige colored lycra that I have bought. And I thought, you know what, just before I start cutting the other fabrics, let me just double check what's all going on there. And I'm really glad I did, because I realized, as with Jane Seymour,
with her kind of underdress where she had the netting on the top of the sleeves, but underneath there was like a panel, a strip going down her arm of like just a like black lycra or black kind of mesh, like a very like power mesh, and sleeves, which I thought were all just the new fishnet that I bought. Nope, nope. The top half, which is not even at the seam line of the sleeve, that is actually a sparkly, it's actually the kind of fabrics that is used on her shorts, which is this kind of lycra that is a sparkle. I think it's called fog foil, and this kind of striped net over the top. So I've got that for the shorts and I have enough, but I just realized that I have cut apart my mock-up and I've not marked this because I've only just realized it. So I need to now go ahead, grab my sleeve pattern, sew that up and kind of cut where I think it needs to be. And what that also means is that I will have to do up the kind of flesh colored fabric and then I will have to put on the fishnet and sew that down after it is a cylinder sleeve, which sounds terrible, and it is going to be terrible, but that is how I've chosen to do this outfit. Unlike the shows where most of the time they are doing it with just a power mesh kind of over the top, and you know the sleeves are sometimes free, I'm doing a full kind of bodysuit just to kind of give me a bit of extra support, which I have seen some of the plus size and of Cleves do as well. But I just, yeah, I was not expecting my brain to have to deal with that tonight. So I think I may deal with this tomorrow and I shall let that simmer and try and make sure that there's no other way that I can get this to work better, because at the moment my brain is just not functioning. I have just finished cutting out all the pieces except for the neck, because I'm waiting for that to still come in, to the bodysuit, which means I can start putting it together tomorrow night. Except obviously I won't be able to, I'll be able to layer everything together, but I won't be able to connect anything together because I need to wait until the neck comes to see how that's going to look. But oh, it was so stressful cutting, especially the last fabric, which was the sparkle lycra, because I only had 50 centimeters of that and I literally have got scraps left. Yeah, that was terrifying. But it's done now and I feel good that it's done. So now, yeah, tomorrow let's start sewing things together. I have started sewing together the pieces for the front is done basically. I just need to add the fishnet around the middle once it all gets put together, which I can't do until the netting comes. But I've done the front so far, and like as I'm doing it, it just reminds me of Gazelle from Zootopia. It is what it is. I mean, it's so sparkly. It looks really rough now because obviously it's just pinned very roughly and it doesn't have any of the outlines or anything. I am very keen to see what it's going to look like with the net, because at the moment, even with the rhinestones, it looks quite flat, but I do love the sparkle that it's giving. So yes. All right, time to do the backs and the sleeves. This is what I have got up to today. I have finished putting all the pieces that I can together for the bodysuit until the net arrives. Sorry, English is hard at the end of the day. And then also the kind of ribbons that I can then put the studding on, which is going to be a whole thing. I already know it's going to be a whole thing. This like rhinestone of the red,
was a real pain to sew, but not as bad as what I thought it was going to be. So, you know, it was better than expected, but still pretty horrible. So I'm glad that this part is done, and I now know some little tips and tricks to be able to sew with that. But yes, the sleeves were incredibly difficult because of the fact that the seam actually runs underneath the middle of this part here. And because there is no seam in the middle of the fishnet in any of the reference images, because all of these are actually loose, they're not connected as I am doing it, or at least the ones that I've been able to see high definition photos of. That was very difficult putting this on, so I was able to machine stitch up here, but I've had to hand stitch all the way down here, and then I've machine stitched the bottom, so I've done a double turn hem on there. So I think I'll probably end up maybe doing something else to the edges, but that is where we're up to for today. Yay. So now I just need to wait until I get the rest of the bits and pieces before I can continue and finish with this bodysuit. It's about 2 weeks later and I've started working on other parts of the cosplay, but the netting has finally arrived. And it does have a good kind of stretch to it. Like, it's not too much, but there is a bit of stretch to it. And it's a really nice red. I think it works nicely with the tones that I have. And I think that this is going to be a lovely addition. So I'm going to go ahead and cut the pieces to lay this over the top of my existing red pieces. And then I can start sewing it all together. Now, here's the thing, right? There are so many different ways that this bodysuit has been made, and there is so little amount of images that are out there. And some of it is what I've read online about people who've seen the different productions, and some of it are trying to dissect what photos are available. And it's really, really interesting to see that sometimes it is literally just, you know, the fabric, like a plain lycra with a net over the top and then sparkles on the net. Sometimes it has been a sparkle fabric underneath a net over the top. Or, you know, I think, and I'm pretty, look, I'm as certain as one can be that the original Broadway, her costume just sparkled. Like, it was so sparkly, and that's what I want. So I think what I'm probably going to end up doing is I'm going to put the net over the top of the rhinestone lycra that I already have, and then I'm going to add more rhinestones to the center point of this net by hand, because why not? So I think that that will kind of just make it sparkle so beautifully, which is what I want, because, you know, it's meant to be this wow moment, and, you know, with the stage lights and everything like that, I want it to sparkle and I want it to hit and reflect in the same kind of manner that the studs and chains will reflect. It's about 2 hours later now, I think, and the net is now on the bodysuit, and I just think it gives it such a cool definition. So I am now going to start sewing all these pieces together, put in the back zip, and then I might even be able to try it on. I'm not going to attach the sleeves just yet, because I think I want to try and get some of the kind of ribbons and studs on the sleeves before I attach them to the bodysuit, just to kind of make my life a little bit easier with handling and sewing down the ribbon on those sleeves. But look, isn't it gorgeous? I love it. Okay. Oh, so exciting. Oh, and of course, once I've got them all together, I can actually sew on the last bit, which is the fishnet that goes in the middle. It is now quite a fair bit later, and I'm going to stop for the night because I can't feel my fingertips. So this is where we're up to, with the bodysuit. It is all kind of, the main body piece is all in one piece. Tomorrow I've got to do the zip in the back, and I have managed to do 3/4 of removing the rhinestones around the bottom. So for the leg holes, I have decided to do like a double folded hem, and with the rhinestones it was just far too bulky. Look, this is actually quite heavy. I am a little bit concerned, but also I think that it will feel very secure on my body at least. Once I can try it on, I will, you know, and it all fits. I'm putting it out there in the universe that it all fits and it all looks well, because obviously some of these fabrics are different to the lycra that I used in the body, like the mock-up. Then I will feel better about this. Of course, it is the middle of winter that I am standing here in a bodysuit, and it is currently absolutely storming outside. You might be able to hear the rain because it's been bucketing down for like 24 hours. But I wanted to come on and say ta-da! So the main bodysuit is now together, the zip is in. It's fitting really quite nicely. I know that there's a bit of pulling here, but I think once I have the shoulders on, it's going to help kind of even out that tension. But I'm really happy with the shape that I've got in this. Especially kind of down here in the bikini area. I've made it slightly longer, and on the back side I've also made it slightly longer than the mock-up, just to give me a little extra coverage than what I had previously, just to make me feel a little bit more secure. But I don't know if you can tell, but I am very sparkly. I definitely do want to add more rhinestones to the mesh, and I'm thinking I'm going to go with really big red rhinestones, different to what I actually have in my stash. Yep, I'm going to have to buy more rhinestones, but like buy like 1 centimeter rhinestones or something like that, and then put that all over the mesh, just so that way I will sparkle like there is no tomorrow. There's a few little things that I need to do, like there's a lot of extra fabric in the seams, shall we say, and considering that there is a sewing line directly where my crotch is, it's very uncomfortable there. So I'm gonna have to get some scissors and very carefully cut away at the excess fabric that is there, and probably cut away some of the excess fabric that is in the side seams and the back seams as well. But overall, yeah, I'm really happy with this. She weighs a fair amount, but when she's on my body, I don't feel it that much, which is great. You know, that's what I thought was going to happen. But yeah, okay, so the first thing I've got to do is I've got to draw out where all of the different kind of ribbons that are red on the bottom, black on top, where does that go on the body, and which sizes are they? Because there's at least 2, if not 3 different sizes that are going to be used on the body. I'm pretty sure there's 3 in terms of the studs. So I need to kind of sit down, hash that out and figure that part out, because what I want to do is I want to get the ribbon and the studs on the arms, because from the actual arm band sort of things, that's actually quite straightforward. But I need to leave enough ribbon to kind of do the vertical ribbons going up the arms. I need enough of that to connect to, I believe it's the neck pieces. I'm not sure. It could very well be like the center front. So I kind of need to figure out where everything is going and how much I need, so that way I can at least sew those down to kind of the arms, and then have the kind of ribbon that goes up free, because that is my plan. I'm planning on everything that's on the skin kind of fabric to be free, and everything on the red and the black and that is going to be sewn. But yeah, overall, yeah, I'm happy with how this is turning out. And once again, it is very much outside of my comfort zone, but I don't hate it. So I think that once I get everything on it, I'm gonna love it, and it's gonna be a really interesting experience for me. Because this is definitely more than I think I've ever shown before, at least in terms of embracing my body the way that it is, and being aware that I'm not a tiny person. Like, I am, you know, I say that I'm plus size for cosplay, but I have people say, you're not plus size, you're mid-size. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm somewhere between mid-size and plus size. And there is a lot of thoughts that go through my head, and I'm shutting the door on them, and I'm just pressing forward. All right, on to marking out where all the ribbons go with the studs, and then the sleeves. Hopefully I can get that done today. Here is my very crude and first attempt at trying to figure out how all the pieces work with each other. And it's just really, really hard, because also every single queen is slightly different. And of course, I'm working on this reference image here as my main reference image, which, for one thing, it doesn't have the point that comes down in the top, which so many of the most recent queens have. But this is my main reference image. This is what I like. This is what I've been using up until this point. So I think that the straight line looks better on my body than the point anyway. Anyway, the issue that I have is that depending on the size of the queen and depending on, you know, what's going on, changes how many lines of studding there is. And it's doing my head in. Luckily, the sleeves seem to be all very similar, so at least I can go ahead with the sleeves. But for the main body piece, I think I'm gonna have to kind of sit on it and think about it before I get to doing it, because they also need to be layered in a very specific way. And also because then the chains, the hook for the chains, also need to be added as I'm putting down the layers of the ribbons, because they need to be sewn underneath the ribbons for, you know, the chains to go through. It's a lot. It's a lot. So update time. As you can see, we have the ribbons on there, which I hand stitched down, and then on top of that I hand stitched all the metal trim. And these are actually two different sizes, because the reference image shows a slightly larger one and then a smaller one. So that is what I am trying to figure out for the rest of this now. But I did also connect the sleeves, so it is all one piece, which is very, very exciting. So the next thing I'm doing is I am taking what was my kind of diagram-esque thing, and I realized there were some mistakes in this anyway. And for the fact that I have Terry going to be helping me on the weekend, essentially, can like line everything up, I know that I'm going to have to do this in stages. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to transfer them into essentially what ones need to go on first, second, third, maybe fourth. Basically, we just need to kind of figure out like the layering of the different ones and which size goes where and when. So this was a little bit too complicated, so I'm going to try and simplify it step by step. And once I do that, then I will be able to sew together a ridiculous amount of red and black ribbons together. But I don't want to sew too much because I need that ribbon for other parts of the costume as well. But I have got, you know, just under 100 yards worth, so that's 91 meters. So I should have enough. Behold what 2 hours of work looks like as I tried to figure out where the ribbons went, which was this, which I actually did earlier, but then figuring out then in which order they go. And then I've also color coded it so that I can figure out, okay, so which ones are going on that are small, which ones are large, when do rings go in, because the rings have to go in before the ribbon that it's like attached to goes on, obviously. Yeah, this took 2 hours and I am brain dead, but I figured it out. I need a lot of small ribbon. That is what I have figured out. Most of this design is small ribbon. So, wasn't expecting that, but here we are. So I have prepped the ribbon and given it a good iron as well. So I've got 10 meters of the wide one, which I think I only need 9, but I got the extra meter just in case. And I end up doing about 17 meters of the thin one, just because that was where there was a natural break in the red. Dogs have decided this is the moment that they're going to sing the song of the people. So I thought, you know what, I'll just do 17 to start off with, and then we'll see how we go. But these are all done, so tomorrow Terry gets to start pinning me. Yay! Once again, that taken out of context could be really bad. It is time. I have the bodysuit on, the ribbon is ready, the drawings are there, Terry is free, so it is time to grab my pins and we begin the very slow process of putting the ribbons on in the right order. Fingers crossed this works.
I'm not free, help me!
He's in chains. We are working on my butt. So I have got a fair bit of the ribbons sewn at the front and the back, but we are just working on the kind of one that goes all the way around. So I am wearing compression socks because standing up in one spot sucks. But we are getting there, and Terry is being an absolute champion at this. It's taking a lot longer than I thought it was going to take. And that's just because both Terry and I are very much perfectionists, and my body is not symmetrical, as we are finding out as we are pinning things. So that's fun. Lovely to learn these things about oneself, isn't it? So update time, we have just finished step 2 of the 5-step process. So about half of the ribbons are now on, and it's looking good. It's looking good. Like, it's a process, guys. It's a process. I kind of feel like some sort of like wrestler at the moment. But I think also like with the V's, it's giving me vibes of something else. Like, I don't know what, like some sort of ladybug or some sort of bug of some description. But we're about to add the kind of last lot of ribbons around the top of the bodice. And after that, then maybe we'll even go into step 4. And if I can get up to step 4 this weekend out of the 5, I will be so happy. Because honestly, like, the end is in sight. But this is probably the most stressful part. It is getting easier with the ribbons and the placement. You know, we were being so careful at the start of it all that now it's paying off. You know, it's one of those things that, like, especially the first round was, it just took forever. But yes, we are now at a place where it's getting easier. We've got a good rhythm, and Terry is being an absolute champion. So I thank him very much for helping me pin it all together. And yes, I mean, he's only poked me a few times, and pretty sure they were not accidental. No, I'm joking. He is being so lovely, and he has poked himself more times than me, which, you know, he took the brunt of it all. Anyway, let's get this ribbon on and keep on going. But look, I also have rings. I've got some of the rings on now, which is exciting. There's quite a few more left to go, but it's fine. It's totally fine. The glorious life of a cosplayer, as told by Curly Cosplay and her assistant, Gingy Stitch Cosplay. Anyway, so we are on diagram number 3. And
we are on death's door.
This has taken pretty much the entire weekend to get to this stage. But you know, the end is in sight. We're just doing the main lines now. It is, sweetie, it is. And you know, this is really coming together and looking like how it's meant to look, which is very, very exciting. But we are pretty much, both of us, very much tired and burnt out. So as soon as Terry finishes pinning the back of this ribbon that goes all the way over, we're gonna call it a night, and we're gonna go. I'm treating him to Japanese because he has been such a fantastic person, and
You've heard it. She better pay.
I am. I've said you can have sake, you can have some alcohol, you deserve it. So I'm treating him to some Japanese tonight. But I mean, this is where we're up to, and I'm thinking it's looking pretty darn good. I'm really happy with this. So hopefully by next weekend we'll have the last lot of ribbons on. I'm hoping by, I'd like to say Saturday night, but realistically I know that's probably not going to happen. So we're going to say by the end of next weekend all the ribbons will be on. And then it's a case of adding the studs and the chains and the last lot of diamantes, and then the bodysuit will be done. So that's very exciting, but there's still a lot of work to go.
So no kidding, this costume has so many straps, and I just feel like I have just been hand sewing non-stop forever. Realistically, it's only been a couple of days, but I have done nothing but hand sew ribbon down on this, and the end is in sight. I've got this lot that I'm currently doing, which is the middle straps and the final straps around the leg holes, and then it's just a case of doing all the straps up the top, the back final like piece that goes down, and the neck, and then the strapping is done. But oh my goodness me, honestly, like there are so many straps, and I know that I'm gonna have to go over a few of them and do extra reinforcements of them. Plus I will have to go over everything again when I'm putting all the studs on, because it's a sew trim that I'm doing. So that's fun. And yes, it's just a lot. This costume, it's not that it looks simple. I don't think anyone who has seen this costume in the live shows would go, that's a simple costume, because it's not. It is very, very flashy, but I don't think people quite understand just how much handwork goes into this, because there's just no way that you'd be able to do this by machine, or at least I feel like I wouldn't be able to do this by machine, because of the simple fact that there's so many curves and you need to get the stretch that is correct with the body, because, well, obviously I'm using ribbon that is non-stretch on a stretch fabric, which already you shouldn't do. You shouldn't do this, but here we are, and I'm doing it is because that's what it looks like it should be. And it does look good. I think it does look good on my body. Like when it's like this crumpled up on my table, you can't see, but it looks like a mess, and I'm like, that looks like terrible work. But when it's on my body, it looks okay, I think. But yeah. Side note, I also got in the mail today my rhinestones. Let me grab them. Here they are. There's so many of them. So obviously I don't need all of these, but it was cheaper to buy a massive bag of rhinestones rather than 2 smaller ones. So that is what I did. And I'm going to be using a fair amount of these on the netting, but I think I'm going to do that after I sew down all the stud trim. And then I can do that after I finish sewing all the straps down. But this will probably be the easy part and probably the most relaxing part of it all, because, you know, doing rhinestoning, it's kind of relaxing, to be honest. The rest of it is not. Best, whatever I don't, and whatever rhinestones I don't use for the body, I will be using for the heel of the shoe, because I also have got some clear rhinestones the same size, because she's got like a little like triangular pattern on her heel of interchanging red with white. So yay. Okay, enough of procrastination. I need to get back to hand sewing.
Okay, I'm not going to lie, I am trying very hard not to cry at the moment. This strapping is now done, and it has taken every bit of spare time that I have had when I haven't been at work or sleeping, basically, for the last like 10 days. And here we go. It's all on. So much hand sewing, so much unpicking and redoing, because as I put something on, something else shifted, but it's on. And it just ties everything together, and I'm trying very, very hard not to get emotional because this character means so much to me. And like with the strapping on, I can see what it's gonna look like, and I just look like Anne of Cleves, and that's awesome. I look good. Oh, okay, silly me, I'm getting so emotional about this. So the next thing I need to do is I do need to put press studs right down the back, because I have got a zipper in the back with some ribbon over the top, and I need to go through and I need to do tiny press studs all the way down, just to make sure that that ribbon stays shut. I mean, it's holding itself pretty nicely at the moment. I would turn around and show you, but I don't know, I don't think I'm going to be able to get the angle. Let me try, hang on. There you are, I'm completely blown out, but just have a look at my back. So this is what the back looks like, just as detailed as the front, and you can see that the ribbon is actually holding where it's meant to hold, which is great, but I want to make it just very, very secure. So with that in mind, I'm going to take this off. I'm probably going to go to bed because it's quite late on a Sunday night and I have got work tomorrow, but I'm just feeling really, really good. I just have to do the press studs and then I can start doing all of the studs, which is so much hand sewing yet again. But yeah, I think once the studs go on and then the rhinestones, and then it's just the case of the chains with the ribbons through the chains, like we're halfway through. Like I can see the end and I'm just so excited. Good evening, it is 2 nights later after that last clip, and I have been doing all of the press studs for the back of my costume, and very frustratingly, the top and the bottom are fine, but the middle, right across kind of the broadest part of my back, which has the least amount of stretch in the costume, all of the press studs are popping off. I think what I need stronger and bigger press studs for that section, because at the moment I'm using these itty bitty tiny whiny little press studs that are perfect size for like laying it down smooth if there is no pressure. But I think for this particular area I'm going to need bigger press studs, and I'm going to have to work some magic to try and get it so that I can still do up the zipper, or rather my handler, aka Terry, can do the zipper up the back and can press stud it down, and it will just hold better than what it's currently doing. Good evening. So I look very similar to how I looked previously, but the good news is that the back is now completely press stud down, and let me tell you, it was a real trial and error sort of situation. It took me 3 nights, 3 whole nights to kind of figure out how I was gonna do the thing, because like I firstly did 11 press studs in the smallest size, and then they popped. So then I added more press studs, and then they still popped, and then today I go to Spotlight and I get the largest black ones that I could find, which was only 9mm, because the other ones were like far too big and wouldn't fit underneath the ribbon at all. But I added those, and then they popped again, so I added more, and now it seems like it's holding. Good afternoon. I have been working very diligently today, and I got a fair whack so far because it's still only, you know, mid-afternoon, so I've got the rest of tonight as well to work on this, but I'm just taking a little bit of a break because my hand is tied. But I got a fair whack
of the studs sewn down, and I'm working on all the bigger size ones at the moment, and I'll show you what it's looking like because it's exciting for me. So here is the front in its current form, and yes, there is a whole lot missing. I am aware of this. I am very aware that this is going to take a lot of time. But I started with the neck because that is the most kind of on top ribbon, for lack of better wording. Then I did the front and the back because of the fact that that is the next lowest one, and the front because I wanted that to kind of match, even though that one goes underneath the waist's kind of stripes. So I've done the bottom waist and now I'm doing the top waist. Pinned that all down, and then the next thing I need to do will be these long ones that go all the way over the shoulder and down. And so it's just taking a bit of time. I'm being very, very careful with anything that is not sewn down. So anything that is actually on top of like the skin mesh, I'm making sure that the black thread that I'm using, that I sew through the in-between stages of the studs, I'm only going through the black ribbon and not through the red ribbon that's underneath it, because I want to try and make that as clean as possible. I mean, yeah, there's certain things like, as you just saw, the back of this, that is all sealed and it's sewn down with red thread. That is about as clean as I can make it, other than putting like another piece on top of that. But then that's just going to add bulk, and I don't know. I think that that is close enough to how it is probably done that I am okay with it. But yes, it's from the front on, it's going to look fabulous. As I'm doing this, I'm just having so many thoughts about, like, is this how they actually did it for the Broadway costumes? Because, like, I don't see any other way that they did it. But, like, realistically, they must have done a whole lot of hand sewing on these costumes. And we just don't necessarily see it from the photos or from being in the audience. I mean, it is classic when you think about it. The whole from 10 meters away, is it fine? Happy days. But when you think about it being a professional company, you know, Broadway, West End, touring around Australia, Europe, you know, America, North America especially, you know, I'm like, they would be top quality, right? So that is what I'm trying to achieve here. But also I'm just like, how? So a bit of an update, all the big studs have now been sewn on. So this is the back. I've just glued down the edges because the edges need to be glued. There's no other way to attach them. But it's the same on the other side essentially. So I'm going to have a little bit of a break, let that kind of dry a little bit. And then I am going to start on the small. And there's a lot more small studying to do. Good morning, it's the next day, and this is where I got up to last night. So I did a fair bit of the back. My goal for this morning is to get the back done and then start working on the front and the sleeves. I don't think I'm necessarily going to get all of this done today. I think that is probably too much for me to do, but I'm going to give it a fair whack. So let's keep on hand sewing. Sorry about being blown out by the light. I am just so tired. I'm on the very last kind of row of studying for tonight. The back will be done, and like all of the arms and around the thighs, because they are continuous pieces. But I did not get to the front. And I am so tired. I am manic. Terry has been laughing at me as I just descend into this hand sewing, studying hell that I have created for myself. I'm just gonna do this, and then once I finish this line, then I'm gonna show you what it's looking like. It's done. Well, the back is done. So this is what we're looking at, and I'm really happy with this. It took a lot longer than I thought. These bottom ones, I knew that they were going to take a long time, just because they go all the way around the legs. They took longer than expected. I think each one took over an hour to do. So that was 2 hours of hand sewing just down here. Hello and welcome to the front. So it is time that I start studying everything. But before I do, I want to tell you about some quick changes that I made. The first one is this one, second one is this one. What happened was that this was a lot longer than the other side. So I've had to unpick it and kind of shove it up underneath here. So I had to unpick this ribbon and just the bottom of that ribbon and make it work. And this one I had to unpick from here to here, so that way I could make it straighter. It was doing this weird kind of curve thing that was quite noticeable. So I'm really happy with how that's looking. Everything else is pretty symmetrical. There are a few that are shorter than the other side, and I'm going to put that down to the fact that I have a body that is not symmetrical, especially in the front. My boobs, for example, just like most women, I don't have, you know, exactly the same cup size. So this line and this line look straight when it's on. That's the most important part. So with saying all that, it is time for me to start studying the rest of it and hopefully get this done. Good morning. The front is now complete with all of the studs sewn on. So now I have finished studying this entire thing. It's crazy, and I know that it's going to be very uncomfortable to wear, or at least I think so. Well, without stockings, it's going to be very uncomfortable to wear around like the kind of leg holes, because they're already a little bit tight, but like when it's on, it looks good. So I'm not going to complain. And like it's not going anywhere, which was my main concern and why I've made it the way that I have. So it's a little bit uncomfortable firstly to put on, but once it's on you kind of get used to it. But I can tell that that's going to be a bit of a pain because that is non-stretch. But anyway, the next thing I need to do is I need to rhinestone the entire thing. So that is what I'm going to be working on today. It's later in the day and I have finished rhinestoning. I don't know if it's making any difference whatsoever. Let me turn on the like softbox light and we'll see if you can see. I wonder if it's gonna pick up the sparkle now. Is there any extra sparkle? I don't know. But it is fully rhinestone now. So we've got the under lycra layer and then the net has all of the rhinestones as well. So how I did this was, it was a bit of a long journey where I would use my E6000 glue, and because it doesn't have a fine tip, I was using a kebab stick to essentially do little dots of the glue on the kind of connection points of the net, and then I went ahead and put the rhinestones on top of the glue. And I did that on the front and the back, and now I am sparkly. So the next thing I want to do tonight is I want to do the little fixes, or at least start on the little fixes, because I don't really feel like putting it on and checking to see how long I want the chains to be. I do want to pull out the chains and just play around with them and see how easy it is to kind of break the chain so that I can then like re-glue it together. Yeah, I'm a little bit nervous about that, but that's fine, that's tomorrow. But I do know that the quick fixes around the collar, I want to do that. So that is essentially getting another ribbon and doing a kind of facing ribbon on the inside, just so that everything's enclosed and looks pretty. And also having a look and seeing if I can add the elastic that goes around the thumb. And then I also want to put some elastic inside of the sleeve so that the sleeve is nice and tight to my wrist. The moment when you realize that you've sewn 2 rings in the wrong area and all the studding is on and all of the ribbons are down. I mean, it could be worse, but there is, you know, about 2 inches on both sides on the back, and the reason being is that there is no clear images of the back, and the grainy image that I was using when I was first kind of figuring out where the rings go, it looked like it was further down than where it is. But now playing with the chain and looking at it, I'm like, that's not gonna hang right. And so I've rewatched a whole lot of videos, and yeah, sure enough, it's higher up. Let me show you. So here is the back and this is the waist. That is in the right area, and I thought that the rings were down here and it would be hanging like down this way on an angle, because that's what I initially thought it was. But having another look through the videos, they're meant to be up here. So I have to unpick all of this. So that includes the work that I've done on the studs and also the ribbons. Unpick it all, move it up, re-sew the ribbons, re-sew the studs. The studs are glued in place. I mean, it's not going to affect it. It shouldn't affect it that much, but that's about half an hour's work, I reckon, to an hour. So I'm just going to do that now, just before I go to bed. Otherwise, it's just going to bug me and I'm not going to be able to sleep. So looks like I'm not done for tonight. But as a side note, I did get the base elastic in. I'm going to try it on and make sure that's the right kind of length before I put the elastic on the inside. And I have redone the collar so that there is ribbon on the inside now as well, so it's a little bit of extra support and it also looks nicer. I do need to get a press stud to kind of give that a little extra support at the neck there, but I've done that as well. So I have just finished moving up the rings from here to here on either side. It really isn't that much of a difference, but hopefully it makes more sense with the chains. But yeah, that took just about 40 minutes and it was an absolute pain, but that's okay. I did also forget to mention that I've been playing around with the chain that I have. So I have this chain and it actually has, I'm pretty sure it's plastic and it's coated in metal, but it does have a little bit of flexibility, so I am able to part the chain and then with pliers put it back together, so I can actually put it on these kind of what are these called? Are they called dog clips? I can't remember. I'm too tired. But yes, so that is awesome. That means that this part, hopefully, fingers crossed, will go together quite quickly. Yeah, I'm feeling positive. At this point in time, I'm feeling positive. So tomorrow I'll try it all on and I'll get Terry to help me with the back side of things. And we'll figure out how long each of the chains need to be. I've done kind of a quick sketch. You can see I drew it out and then I was like, wait, the chains aren't going to look right. Let me review my situation. Let me have a look at all the kind of not meant to be shot, pirated kind of videos that are online. And let me see if I can see any sort of back shot. And yeah, sure enough, they were meant to be higher up, so that's what I've done. Also, what I've noticed is that every single queen that I can find has the chains hanging slightly differently. So I have chosen to go for a look that is similar to the one reference image that I have, which I'm pretty sure is of Brittany Mac's costume. She was the original Broadway Anne of Cleves, so I'm pretty sure that's hers. I'm pretty sure, but that's the only image that we've got of, you know, a relatively good shot of the bodysuit, at least one version of it. Anyway,
but I was having a look at the other queens, and all of the chains are slightly longer or shorter depending on what you know, what best suits the queen's body. So we're going to take that into consideration as well. The number of chains is the same on all of them, so 3 in the front, 2 on the bottom, and then 2 on the back, 2 on the back. You know what, we're just going to play around with it, and we're going to see what looks good on my body. But for now, I'm going to bed. Good night.
Looking at the girl in the mirror.
Okay, so I have just spent the last couple of minutes just like giggling like mad and jumping up and down with excitement because this is amazing. This is so cool. I'm so happy with this, guys. Like, I feel amazing. It is 100% Anne of Cleves. The rhinestones, I don't know if it's picking up on camera, but they are so sparkly and beautiful. Like, it's like little twinkles from the rhinestone lycra, and then like big sparkles from the rhinestones that I put on yesterday. So, oh my god. Now, this thing is really heavy, but funnily enough, when it's on my body, it really isn't that heavy at all because it's close to my skin. I'm just like basically holding on to it. So happy days. Now, in terms of the elastic, at first I thought that the elastics on the wrists here were too loose, but then I realized that if I'm stretching up or anything like that, it's holding quite nicely. So I think that's about the right length. So I'll go ahead and I will put the thick elastic in as well. So I've got to get Terry back in, but I have this little bit of chain that I've put the dog clip on. So we're going to use that as a starting point. And figure out all the different lengths of chains that I need on one side, and then I'm going to go through and start basically making it happen. And yeah, oh my goodness me. This costume, although it's tested me and it's taken longer than I thought it would take to make, I love it. I really, really do. I just like seeing it with all the studs, seeing it with all of the shine. Terry has nicknamed me like a sparkly wrestler, which I can see why. Like, let's be real here. It does look like a little bit of a wrestling costume, and I am okay with that. It's kind of like Beyonce meets wrestler. But it's just, I just feel powerful in this. And I feel good, and I feel like Anne of Cleves, and I'm loving it. I'm really, really loving it.
I have just finished sewing the last little bit of elastic into the cuffs of the sleeves. And I have also, before that, done all the chain where I use pliers to kind of separate them into the lengths that they needed to be, and then put the links back together with the dog clips. And then I inserted all of the lace through said chains and sewed them all down on the ends. So I'm about to try it on, all complete, hopefully, but I'm not going to show you what it's going to look like until tomorrow. I'll try it all on with like a more finished look than what I can achieve tonight. If everything looks good, the next clip will be me wearing the costume tomorrow. Cleves' bodysuit is done. Well, not quite, but she's almost there. So I did actually end up removing the ribbons because when I tried it on last night, they were just too thick. And I remember getting very, very angry and I didn't think it was a good idea to record that at last night, but I cut them all out. So what took me hours to put in, I cut out in about 5 minutes. But I actually really love them how they are now. There is black ribbon in the chains, so I am going to go and buy some very, very thin black ribbon to weave through the chains again. That will help it from, what was happening was it was bunching up essentially, and it was really, really bulky, and the chains weren't sitting right. And yeah, it wasn't right. So I think with some very thin ribbon, putting that through, it's going to hang very similar to how the chains are hanging now. I might also take one link out of this particular one, just because it is a little bit longer than, you know, what we were thinking. But overall, like, I am so happy with her. Like, she's taken a long while to do, and this is definitely outside of my comfort zone. I think you've seen that on the journey that I've had while making this costume. But look, I feel like there's no other word but fierce wearing this. Like, I feel so ready to take on the world. Like, I think that although it's like meant to be kind of sexy, burlesque, whatever, it does kind of feel more like armor to me. Like, it feels like a wrestling uniform, you know, cross burlesque, cross showgirl, and I'm loving it. I feel very feminine in this, but also incredibly, like, just, I'm feeling myself. Like, I feel really good in this, and I feel good about my body, even though I honestly have been putting this cosplay off for so long, because I was always like, I am not the right size to wear this yet. I'm not the right size to make this yet. And here I am, probably at the heaviest that I've ever been, or no, not the heaviest I've ever been, but close to. And I just, enough is enough. No more excuses. Let's just do it, and let's see how we go. Let's see how we feel. And I'm feeling good. And I think that I take inspiration from all of the amazing Anne of Cleves that I've seen in all of the bootleg versions, because they are all different shapes and sizes and coloring, and, you know, just, they're all so different, and all of them are fantastic performers, and all of them are fantastic Anne of Cleves. So, like, why did I think that I wouldn't suit Anne of Cleves? You know? And here I am. I did up my hair to kind of mimic some of the styles, and I've got this pair of earrings is actually what the version that I'm basing this on, Millie Redford, or Redshaw, sorry. And I just still need to make the earring on this side. But yeah, the boots are on. I still need to do all of the work on those, and obviously I need to make the kind of tearaway, which I'm going to start working on in this afternoon. But I'm feeling good, guys, and I'm really happy with how this all turned out, even though it took a friggin' long time to make this costume. You know, months of procrastination, and then 2 months of actually sewing. And I think why it's taken so long is because of all the hand work that goes into this costume. There was just a lot more than what I'm used to. I would really like to take this opportunity to thank my amazing patrons who have been cheering me on as I've been making this in secret. I feel like I've not posted anything about this online, but I've been posting it on my close friends list, and they have been cheering so loudly for this, and cheering me on and saying, "You look great, it's all good," when I had moments of like, oh my goodness me, am I doing the right thing here? So I would really like to thank my patrons, and I especially would like to thank my $10 a month tier patrons, who are
Justine Ghosty, Fangirl X, Monica, Lulu Alamode, Mithril Teacup, Barbara Lee, Trash Guardian Cosplay, Mother of Cats Cosplay, Rogue Threads, Connie, and Eleanor.
Thank you so much for watching. I really hope that you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you in the next one as we continue making Anne of Cleves. Bye!